Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl. We're here today in South Carolina to bring you a very special edition. We have the pre-release version of the brand new BMW X7. We got our first glimpse of the X7 at the 2017 IAA in Frankfurt. Back then, of course, it was just a concept. Since then, it's gone into production, and we're very happy to be able to show you what some of the features are. Now, as you've probably already guessed, this isn't some brand new fancy paint design that's coming on all the X7s when they roll out. It's still very much in pre-production, and because of that, there are lots of details that we can't share with you, and there are lots of physical details that are going to be quite hard to show you. But we were invited here specifically to be able to give it its very first test drive, so we can really get a sense of what it will be like when it does come to market next year. Okay, so the first thing you will notice about the X7 is that it looks slightly familiar. Well, of course there's the concept, but there's also the idea behind it. We know how successful the Q7's been for Audi. We know how well received the GLS is for Mercedes. BMW decided that they were really a little overdue in getting into this market and getting their slice of the pie. So the X7 is their competitor. How's it look? Well, as I said, it's quite hard to get a really good perspective with all this camouflage on, but you can see they very much have gone with the idea of go big or go home. Look at that bold, aggressive front. You can see here that this camouflage is covering up the top of the grille, so it's really very imposing. The two key markets for this vehicle are going to be the United States and also China. It will be available in Europe later on, but probably with different powertrains. So for the moment, this is the US spec model that we have. So that bold, imposing design comes right through into the sides and the bonnet as well. And take a look at this. 22-inch wheels. Just like the front of this car, BMW clearly want to make a very big statement on the road, and visually it does exactly that. Even from a distance, this car really does stand out from the rest of the lineup. I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? It's not always the case that bigger is better, but you can't have it both ways. And if you're going to design a big SUV, then you're going to need to make some kind of a statement about it. And from the way that this side profile looks, you really can get a sense of just how big this is. There's my hand on the rail at the top. I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters. And as you can see, it makes me look pretty small next to it. Very, very solid right throughout the side. And you can see from the dimensions here, I'm just going to use my hands a little bit so you can get a sense of perspective, that the third row seating in this car is not just there for appearance. There really is quite a lot of room back there, not only for passengers, but also for luggage too. We're somewhat limited about how much of that we're allowed to show you, but we can tell you about it. Let's take a look at the back. That big, bold and aggressive styling carries right on through into the back. Look at how this massive flank wraps around into the rear of the car. Now again, I'm going to try and give you a better idea using my hands. This is the window here, and there's the height. So we have actually, from within the car, very good rear visibility, and that's nice. A lot of SUVs lose that, especially with the third row seats. You really get a sense that there is no part of this car in which big wasn't part of the intentional statement. If you take a look down here, this line is the divider on the boot. It opens from the top here and also folds down from the bottom here. There are even two little strips of carpet here, so if you want to sit down and use it as a bench while you're tailgating, it's perfectly designed. It's also providing you with an easier access to load space at the rear. And it doesn't stop there. we can't show you in here, but I can tell you that we do have some very nice electronics fitted that allow us to get full use out of those seats inside from the back. In other words, if you turn up to where you need to be to find you have to put lots of things in the boot of this car, you don't have to get involved with moving seats around from inside. You can do all of that from the back. So functionality really is key in terms of how this car has been designed to be used. Coming down slightly lower, again, we can see two aggressive, big looking exhaust ports and a nice ground clearance here. Now our model, our test car, actually comes equipped with the air suspension. We'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail later on. But what that means in practical terms is you have the ability to change the ride height of the vehicle by up to 80 millimeters. That's not an insignificant number, especially if you consider that you want to do loading into this car. It really does help to be able to get it a little bit lower down. How does that feel when you're driving around in it? Well, hopefully we'll get to find out. So we've already told you that there's a lot we can't tell you about this car and there's a lot we can't show you. This is not some new fancy design by BMW for stealth mode driving. This is what they do to the interior of the vehicle to make sure that you can't see it. Why would they go to all that length? Well, the reason is that the last details of the car to really get fully finished are often the interior touches. So they're not happy with the standard of some of the features on the interior fit out. They haven't been finalized and therefore they don't want them to be displayed. So don't worry about that. We will of course be doing a press drive with the car when you will be able to see it in full. But for now, let's tell you about what we can tell you about. Well, at launch, there will be 3 engines available for this car. You're either going to be able to get a 6-cylinder diesel, a 6-cylinder petrol, or an 8-cylinder petrol. Now, the test car that we've been driving around this morning has been the 8-cylinder petrol, and I can tell you it's got a nice bit of heft to it. Now, I'd love to be able to give you some numbers, but unfortunately, we're not allowed to. The same goes for consumption. What I can tell you is that it was very important to BMW when they designed this car that the balance between performance and comfort meant that this car would be practically useful not just for off-road adventuring or driving fast on the Autobahn, but also for picking your kids up from school. And the way that the power is delivered really does do a superb job of that. You get a range of different driving modes to pick from. And if you put it in Eco, let's see if I can remember, Eco Pro, then what you will notice is that the car uses the least amount of fuel that it's reasonable to expect that it would. There are 2 digital displays in here. There's one on the cockpit and there's one in the center. And they change depending on which driving mode you select. With the Eco Pro mode, you get a lot of information about how efficiently you're driving. But, and it's a big but, lots of eco modes on cars gut the performance completely. So in a big, powerful car like this, you wouldn't really want to have slow power delivery. Don't worry about that. The minute you put your foot down on the accelerator, all that lovely power comes rushing back. And it's delivered to the wheels by an 8-speed automatic gearbox. That's standard throughout the range. The only thing that is optional is whether or not you want Tiptronic shifts up here. Well, they've done such a nice job of pairing the drivetrain that honestly, you don't really need it. If you put this thing in sports mode and then put your foot down, trust me, you will get more than enough of exactly what you want, exactly when you want it. We'll talk about the drive in a lot more detail later on. But for now, we're just going to talk a little bit about the interior. Again, it's not been completely finished, so we can't really comment in detail, but I can tell you it feels stylish, conservative, and very nicely finished. There's a massive panoramic sunroof in here, which is accessible to both the front and the rear of the car. And as Jonas found out when we were cruising around earlier, thanks Jonas, you can actually access all of the infotainment system settings from the rear as well if you have the electronic equipment back there too. And that's, well, I was going to say that's nice, but if you've got small children, you haven't yet figured out how to stop them being allowed to do that, it could be a little bit challenging. It's very comfortable, it's very spacious, and it's very nicely finished. The seats which I think we may be able to show you a little bit of, sneakily, are very comfortable, and they have adjustments everywhere. Upper and lower lumbar support. You can extend out the bit underneath your legs. You can also change the ride height, and that's great. This is a very big car, so consequently, when I'm sitting in it, I have a feeling of being very deep inside it. With the seat down nice and low, I have more than sufficient headroom at the top, and I have a very strong driving position. I don't feel that I'm too high up off the road, and when you throw this car into corners, the way that that power is handled is fantastic. Of course, being an off-road vehicle, you also want to take advantage of the differential lock while you're off-road, but the way that the power is delivered independently to the wheels while you're driving is absolutely superb. You really can throw this car around the corners, and for such a large car, that's really a very impressive thing to achieve. So we've been joined by Daniel Nowicki, who is in charge of research and development for driving dynamics. And it's the perfect time for him to join us because we're taking the X7 out on the open road. Daniel, I understand that a lot of work has been done with this car to make sure that the performance and the ride on the road are every bit as dynamic and compelling as the off-road performance.
Yes, we did a lot of work into this car. As a base car, we have here a 2-axle air spring in this car with VDC. We call it variable damper control. So this is a base which is already a very high level for normal cars. Normal road cars run on normal steel springs with normal dampers. Here everything is electronically controlled.
So Daniel, research and development for driving dynamics. Help me out. What exactly does driving dynamics mean?
Yeah, driving dynamics on a BMW is for sure sheer driving pleasure. That's every BMW must have. And especially in such a car, the new X7, which is our biggest car, it's the hardest way to achieve. And again, with a 2-axle air spring, you are capable to lower and to rise the car. And for example, if you lower the car in sport mode, it's about 20 millimeters, you get a completely different car compared to comfort mode, where the ride is very smooth and every step is taken very silently. In sport, it's getting more aggressive, but that's what you want from such a car. You can tell it's like 2-in-1.
Well, certainly the way that the power is delivered is somewhat deceptive. We're driving on country roads, and I don't think I'm going to mention the speed that we're going at the moment, actually, but the point of this is in order to be able to demonstrate the handling of the car. And it's really quite extraordinary, I think, when you put this car into a bend at speed, you just don't feel the roll that you're expecting. It just sits on the road beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, you have different options on this car to choose from, and one of the option it will be Executive Drive Pro, which means we have active stabilizers on board, which are also electronically controlled, and with that you minimize body roll really by a lot. And also we have a rear axle steering on this car, which also helps the car turn easily, and it doesn't feel so heavy.
No, that really is very true. For a car of this size and this weight, it's surprising how lively it feels when you put it through its paces. So we've been joined by Sebastian Sauerbrei, who's from product engineering at BMW, and he's going to make sure that we're okay when we take the X7 off-road and find out what it can deliver. So Sebastian, this is not your first time out on this track today.
No, that is second or third.
And is there anything I need to know about this before we go on this track?
Yeah, it's very important to set up the car in the right position, so go on the highest level. So we are already in, DSC off, and go in manual mode for the transmission, M2, and you are good to go. I explain you later if we when we have to use the hill descent control.
So right from the start, we can notice the benefit of having the air suspension because we've elevated the car to increase the ride height, and that's a difference between minimum and maximum of 80 millimeters.
Yes.
That's really quite something. And I think that's good for the undercarriage of the car on the course that we're about to drive round. What was the thinking behind the way that you approached the suspension on this vehicle? Because it's quite unique, isn't it?
It is unique, especially if you look at the amount of change you can apply to the car. So plus minus 40 millimeters. It's really, it's nice to have, and it's quite a challenge for the dynamic guys, because in every ride height we have to have a smooth ride and it has to work. So the idea is to have the comfort mode in, I would say, 0, that you can go on street road, that everything is going fine, that the car drives like a 7 Series. And the benefits of an air spring is that you can lower the car and can load and unload the car at minus 40, and you can also lower the car for a better on-road performance for the sport mode. But, and this is new for us, you can also go on the higher level, so the plus 40 millimeters, and you get the ground clearance, and you're allowed to go on tracks like we do it now. We're usually not going with these cars.
I was just going to say I really like the 7 Series, but I don't think I'd bring one here.
Yeah, that's why you have now the X7, and you can bring it. Yeah.
So, as I understand it then, you are responsible for making people driving BMWs feel happy. Is that?
Yeah, that is my main goal. Yes.
That is a superb job description.
Yeah.
I really like that. So when this car was really being conceived of and developed, what did you want to bring to the X7 that you felt was really special, really different, really going to make an X7 driver smile?
What I wanted to give the car mostly is that it feels like a BMW. This class we never entered. This is the first BMW in this class, and when you start to drive, that you immediately feel it is a BMW. That was the hardest thing. We did some benchmarks, we drove different competitors, and to get this car, I would say you need to drive 500 meters and then you say, okay, I'm in a BMW. When I achieved this goal, I'm happy. And the second goal, which I say is what's really important, that you have the opportunity to make this car sporty. And that's what we can do with this 2-axle airspring.
So, can we talk a little bit about the driving modes? What exactly happens when I put this car into sports mode? What changes happen to the car and its ride?
In sport mode, you lower the suspension about 20 millimeters. The steering force will raise up slightly. The car is more centered and the feedback of the steering is better in sport mode. Also, the throttle response is stronger, and at a plus, you can put the gear lever also into sport mode. Then you are always 1 gear lower than before, and this gives also a more response reaction.
What would you say is your favorite feature about the X7?
Yeah, for sure, the Executive Drive Pro suspension, which is, in my opinion, the best thing you can get from BMW overall. I mean, in this car, and the engine
now,
for sure.
We had, I have to interrupt you there just for a little bit. We had a really nice opportunity just coming out from a stop sign to give it a little gas. And that sound is absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, we should switch to sport, then it's even more present. One moment. Yeah.
There we are. Yeah. Now, I think it's going to be quite tricky driving this maybe as slowly as we should be driving this. But so pay attention, guys. Obviously, speed limits are not targets.
Yeah, but it's still a BMW.
But,
it's
yeah,
it's
come on.
supposed to drive
That's right.
nice.
It's really surprising just how effortlessly it handles that speed, though. So given that the requirements that you have for a vehicle that's going to drive in environments like this are very different to the requirements that you would have for a vehicle when you're going down the Autobahn at over 100, what are the compromises? How do you manage to make the car perform well in both of those environments?
Yeah, you already said it. It's the air spring. You have the travel, and you have an adaptive suspension. So the shocks are adaptive. So they are tuned to work in every height level. So you can make a setup for street. You can set up for the Autobahn. For example, the Autobahn speeds are very high. And if you go in comfort mode, the car is on, I would say, level 0, and we lower the car down. If it goes faster, and it gives you, fuel efficiency and safety. Yeah.
So if you say air suspension and off-road to me, I'm instantly thinking of the GLS. Now, it's not going to come as a big shock to you that that's going to be one of your key competitors within the segment. What is there about this car you think that really stands out and differentiates itself from Mercedes?
Unfortunately, I cannot talk about the competitors today.
But only what makes this car unique? That's what I'm after.
This car makes unique that you can. So you never had a 7 Series that was capable to do Autobahn, to do off-road, to do everything before, and this is unique in the segment, and this is unique for the world, that you have the driving experience from a BMW with all these capabilities.
What's particularly interesting about the drive, and I'm not sure if Jonas gets a sense back there as well, is quite how amazingly comfortable it is over this incredibly uneven terrain. The suspension delivers a really comfortable ride even while it's being challenged. And that to me is quite surprising. Do you think that the really hugely large wheels have a significant impact on that?
The wheels have to fit. There are some compromises with the wheels. First, they have to look good.
Yes,
for sure. Then we use also the size of the wheels to generate comfort and sportiness. So you can see that the sidewall, even if we drive with 21 or 22 inch tires, it's not very low. So it has a little bit of profile that we can keep up here in the off-road environment as well.
So obviously you've driven the car, you enjoy the car.
Yeah.
So what do you think that the X7 adds to the BMW's X lineup?
Yeah, it's a far bookend of the X family. You can compare the X7 to the 7 Series. So you expect the 5 Series to be more very comfortable, but when you go to the 7 Series, you expect the special one. This is what I always dreamed of. This is the highest level of comfort and driving dynamics. And driving dynamics can also be comfort. What you want. So, and what we did is we managed it to build in the same gap between the future X5 and the new X7.
Yes. So I think some of our viewers might be a little concerned, those that really love the 7 Series. Is it possible to transpose that experience into an SUV?
Yeah, it is. You're driving it right now, so you felt it yourself the whole day. It is possible. I mean, this is a 7 Series in the SUV market, but still it's an X family car. It's not a sedan, it's not a limousine, it's X family car, and it has still this SUV style, but a high riding comfort.
That's true. And now although it's very much fun to drive this car in sports, for day-to-day, obviously we have two extremes. We have sports at the one end, and we have Pro Eco at the other, which is going to deliver us the best efficiency that we can get. What it really impresses me about it is that if we take the opportunity to switch it to Eco Pro, there we go. Although instantly the ride changes, it's much less responsive, it's much softer, the gear ratios have changed to allow us to get the best efficiency out of it. It still drives and handles like a performance SUV, which is really very nice. The coasting feature, where the engine disconnects from the gearbox and allows us just to sail, literally, with no power, no friction, makes it feel effortless. A lot of cars' eco modes feel a little bit forced, especially when they're trying to get the best balance between power delivery and economy, but you just don't experience that in this car. I'm a little bit disappointed that we're not able to bring you any fuel efficiency figures. Let's be honest, they're not going to be stellar, are they? But I think after you've driven this car for 5 minutes, you're probably not going to be that bothered. It just makes you smile, and I think that was not only the most important thing it needed to do, but also the thing which your job relies upon achieving, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Eco Pro, some people really only drive in Eco Pro because...
No, they say that they do. Really? People own this car and only ever drive in?
I know company colleagues who do.
They say that they do.
Yeah, for example, really, my girlfriend does.
Yeah?
She tells me when she drove to Grandma, she said, I was driving in Eco Pro and I saved 47 kilometers. She tells me. So
wow.
This is a function which is used.
And the nice thing with that is you can say, okay, you saved 47 kilometers and now I'm going to burn that. I'm going to take that credit and I'm going to use that on my way to work. So that's a nice exchange.
Yeah.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's nice. I do in particular like the way that the display, which sadly we can't show you, is adaptive to the driving mode as well. So when you're in Eco Pro, it generally does make the car feel a little bit more like you're trying to, I want to say be environmentally friendly. This car is not really, that just is not the purpose of this car. And as I said, what's really satisfying is if you are driving an Eco Pro and you put your foot down, it still makes you smile.
Yes.
So your girlfriend may have achieved 47 kilometers. I don't think I'd be achieving 47 kilometers.
Yeah, you could give it a try now, up to Greenville.
Yeah, but why would I? Why would I do that? It's too much fun to drive.
Yeah.
So right now we're using the hill descent feature, and the benefit of that is my feet are not touching the brake or the accelerator. The car is determining its own control, and you can change the speed at which it does that. At the moment we're going at 2 miles an hour, and that really gives us the opportunity to experience just how much control this car is capable of applying to itself. It's actually really pleasing to see how quietly it does that. A lot of cars with hill descent, well, there we go, do make quite a lot of complaining noise while you're using them, but this is very, very quiet indeed. I've been very impressed with the insulation on the cabin itself in lots of different environments so far. Was there anything special that you did with the way that the car's set up to help that really work?
So we have some development done on the brake system. So the new brake system is helping us to keep this car that quiet, gives us some opportunities to do better than in the current X5, and you can feel it. Yeah, you already said it's quieter. That was the target, that was the goal, and that the car feels so quiet inside here is also a result of designing a very stiff body. Yeah, you can imagine this car is huge, 5.1 meter long. Yeah, has the the ratio of the stiffness is very high, so you really can feel it. The car is not twisting, the car is, yeah. And this is always the target for our cars, so sometimes more focused on the driving dynamics, but here we are focused on, yeah, sound insulation and quietness, and yeah, you really should feel like in a 7 Series.
Yeah.
Even if it's off-road.
Yes, yes, I think that's really nicely summed up. You want to transport the experience of the 7 Series completely into an SUV model, and I think over time, because we know the market's moving towards people more and more buying SUVs, I think we'll see a lot of migration from standard sedan customers to this model. And as you say, what you want to make sure is that when they arrive in it, they recognize the experience immediately, and they're completely happy with it. Well, having driven a regular 7 Series, I can say that this is very reminiscent in terms of the quality that it delivers. But obviously it is a new experience. It is an evolution away from the standard sedan format. Do you think that over time that this will be a more popular style of a more popular style of executive car?
Yeah, the customer will decide it. So the customer at the end has the choice. I think the market for these cars is huge. We started in the 90s, end of the 90s, with the success story of the X5, and now we are trying to enter a new terrain. And I think, yeah, if this market will stay like it is, this car will be great in the market.
So, favorite feature?
The favorite feature, I can always refer to the air spring. I like the air spring because I like to. I'm an engineer, so I'm a little bit on the high sophisticated side. I want to do something. I can move it up, down. That's really nice. And together with my other favorite features, so the integrated steering, the active roll bars, the car gets to a level where it's a BMW.
Yeah.
And this is maybe, if we talk about competitors, this is the BMW.
Now, I think a lot of our viewers might be interested in this. I certainly am. There is a staggering amount of technology in this car, not least of which is the suspension system. As it is so sophisticated, is that going to lead it to be more complex, more expensive to maintain as the car ages?
I don't think so. We did a huge step with the air springs. So we had air springs on cars in the 90s, and later on we have a very further developed air spring system that gives us the opportunity that you are not coming in the morning and have a dead air spring or something like this. So this will not happen with this car. This is and you talked about the complexity of the car. That's to design the car. It's complex, but if you have the right guys on your side and the right designers on your side.
Okay guys, you heard it here. Sebastian said the air springs on this car will not break. So if you buy one of these cars, you can rest assured Sebastian will fix it if it has a problem. Well, it feels superb to drive. I'm genuinely very interested to see, as this technology gets older and the cars age, how that will affect the overall performance. I mean, clearly most people that buy one of these cars will not be driving it around this type of environment, so it won't be put to the test as ruggedly as the cars that we're driving today are being. But it's very pleasing to see how nicely, how gently it makes the transition from being a completely comfortable road car for taking shopping, picking up kids in, to a bit of an off-road monster without even batting an eyelid.
Cars, I mean, everybody knows at some parts of the German Autobahn we have no speed limits, so this car is capable to go 250 kilometers per hour, but it's still also capable to do some off-roading. what you experience today. And when you go on certain roads with not so good road conditions, you go in sport mode and you minimize the roll and the bumpiness.
Daniel, let me just check my understanding. You said this car can go 250 off-road. That's what you're saying?
No. Not really, no. The off-road mode is not for that kind of speed.
Not for high speed. That's a shame. That would be fun.
Well, perhaps for future cars, but that needs a lot of development.
So now, obviously, the key target markets for this vehicle are going to be the United States, where we are currently, and you can see it really fitting right in there, and China, where, you know, big luxury cars are becoming more popular all the time. It will, however, be released in Europe as well. My understanding is it will come with a different lineup of engines for Europe. Is that correct?
Well, not really. We have a lineup of 6 cylinders and 8 cylinders, gasoline and diesel. So we will have every variety of engines for all markets.
So will be the same offering in Europe as it is in the rest of the world?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
I think we come to a spot where this is my favorite spot, where it gives you an impression if you have kind of a little cabin on a lake or in the mountains. This is the car. Yeah, you can choose. You can go with the X7 to your cabin. Enjoy your family life on the weekend. So now we come to the point.
And will we? Oh, excuse me. It's quite hot in here. Will we be offering some kind of deal whereby when customers buy one of these, they're going to get a cabin with it? Because that's a sweet deal. I have to say, that is a sweet deal. Does depend where the cabin is, mind you, but still, that would be good.
We should talk to our marketing guys. Maybe it's a nice idea, but I don't know if this will work, because we are not realtors. So we are designers, car enthusiasts.
So, talking of car enthusiasm, this car shares a lot of its DNA with the new X5 that's coming up. Was the technology designed with it in mind that it would be applicable to the two different models at the same time? Are we going to find lots of similarities between the X7 and the X5 when it comes along?
Most people ask me this question, but it's a unique car. So people ask me, is this a stretched X5? No, it isn't. It's a X7, and if you see a 5 Series, 7 Series, these are complete different cars. Maybe they share some components, but the idea behind the car is completely different. The tuning is completely different. Some parts, or come back to the air spring. The air spring has some complete different requirements. So you get another car. You get a different car.
Yeah.
This car is a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1, I say. I would say 3-in-1, and I give you an example. You can go with this car to the opera and making really a good impression. This is a very nice car, good looking, and it's a premium brand, so it's nice to go there. And after opera, you want to go to your chalet in St. Moritz, for example, and there you will have some roads with switchbacks and so on, and then you will change your driving mode to sport, and you will have a nice drive to St. Moritz, for example, and then you want to go up to your chalet because it's winter, and then you can change to an off-road mode.
I don't think he understands my lifestyle quite. He's like, go to the opera, then I'm going to go to my chalet in St. Moritz. I think, we've already heard today that we don't yet have a price point for this vehicle. It's not sounding cheap to me, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's an X7, as you know from BMW. When the numbers rises, the price tag rises.
Of course. But do you have a cabin in St. Moritz?
No.
You don't? Do you go to the opera?
Seldom. Seldom. I was once.
You've been once to the opera. Okay, so there's a little lacking consistency here. What you're telling me is the one time you've been to the opera, if you could have done, you'd have done it in an X7.
Yes, for sure.
And you've never been to a chalet you don't own in St. Moritz, but if you did, this would be the car you would take. So there are still some final tweaks happening with this car even as we speak.
Yes.
Well, there you go, viewers. If you think that you know something that should be on an X7, put it in the comments. Do it now. Sebastian can still see if he can fit it. So that about does it from us from South Carolina and the X7. So what do we think? Well, I'm pretty sure you've heard throughout the clip that BMW are very enthusiastic that we think of this as being a completely unique car, totally separate from all of its brothers and sisters in the rest of the lineup. Well, obviously that's their vision of how things are going to work out. But I do have to say, when you have the opportunity to experience how the suspension interacts with this car, and in particular the more powerful engine that's currently available, you really can see what they're driving at. This car not only delivers off-road, but more importantly on-road where it really counts. As much fun as it's been to drive this around these spectacular off-road courses, it's not what most people are going to be doing day to day with the X7. What most people are going to be doing day to day with the X7 is driving it to and from work, picking up the kids from soccer practice, picking up shopping, and so on and so on. And in those conditions, it performs beautifully. The ability to switch the functionality from a sports drive where you really get that full power right through to the Eco Pro mode where you take the full advantage of the best fuel economy that the car has to offer. What does that mean? Well, we're going to have to wait a little while to find out some more details. But for now, everything that we've experienced about the X7 really tells us that this is going to be a competitor within its market. We really had a good time driving this today, and hopefully we'll keep being delighted the more that we find out. In the meantime, if you have any questions, and I'm sure you have lots that we can answer for now about the X7, please put them below. Please like us, please subscribe, and if you're still hungry for more information, don't worry, we will have the full test drive of this car, hopefully before too long. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as we've enjoyed making it.